Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. The other day I showed you how to make a watercolor block and I shared this little sketch that I had done at the beach last week, and several of you asked for a demo on this, so I'm happy to do that. I'm going to do that right now. I really didn't think it was that exciting enough to do a demo on, but if you guys want to see it, I am more than happy to do it. So I'm also going to show you how I sketch in the field, pretty much. Except I would be holding this on my lap. So this is my little koi sketch box, and I think the watercolors are decent. They're not like, I'd call them probably a high student grade, not, I wouldn't rate them as high as a Cotman, but I would rate them higher than like a Reeves or Daler Rowney Aquafine or Artist Loft. You know, they're decent. They're very similar to the Prima paints. And then I would put my little palette out to my right hand side because I'm right-handed, and this kit happened to come with a water brush, which I really like. And actually, if you have a big box store nearby, if you have like an AC Moore, maybe Hobby Lobby and Michael's has it, I think they do, but you could use a coupon on these. These retail for about 30 bucks. I got mine for 15 because I had a great coupon. And I'm just going to get my water flowing a little bit. So this is a little water brush that comes with it. And the way I kind of look at it when I'm trying out a brand of paints that I'm not really sure about, I ask myself, what would I pay for the palette and any accessories? So the water brush is easily worth 7 bucks. The palette would be worth, you know, 10 easily empty that I could fill with my own paint. So I mean, even if I hated the paints, I could always pop them out and put better quality paints in, and still, with that coupon price, have a decent deal there. And I'll just put my reference, my little sketch from the beach right there. And I think we can see everything pretty well. Oh my gosh, stop gabbing, Lindsay, right? Okay, so I would typically have this in my lap and I would be kind of holding it like this, but that would give you a skewed perspective. So I just wanted to let you know, I don't really bother with the little thumb slot that's underneath here. I just kind of hold it in my lap like that and angle up the board. So first thing I'm going to do is actually just kind of wet the sky. Okay. Bring it down about 1/3 of the way, just with water. And I don't need to tape this down because I'm using my DIY watercolor block, and I'm picking up a little bit of, I think this is probably like a cerulean here. I guess there was like a little, a color key on the package when I bought it, but I threw it away, so I'm just going by what it looks like. You can use whatever you want. And I want it a little bit darker at the top. And I might add a little bit of, this might be cobalt or ultramarine. Let me just look at that before I add it. Looks like a cobalt to me. I'm going to add a little bit of that up top just to darken it a little bit. And now I'm going to throw in the horizon. And again, I think I'm going to grab some of that cobalt. And I think I'll add a little bit of this Indian red to it because this kit doesn't really have a burnt sienna. But this Indian red's pretty close, and I can get a nice kind of grayish dark blue there. And I want this horizon line about 1/3 of the way down, kind of right where I stopped my water. And so the rule of thirds, the reason we like to do this is because things look more interesting when you have them divided in thirds. So things that if you divide your landscape like 1/3 sky and 2/3 water, or land, or 1/3 land and 2/3 sky, it just looks a little bit more interesting. So that's what I'm going to do here. And then I'm also going to kind of sketch out this little beach inlet area. I was sitting on the beach, so I got kind of a strange little view, but that'll work. And then I'm going to kind of take a little bit of green and add to this color here that this grayish color that I mixed. And I'm going to do it like a far away, like kind of hill or mountain of trees. This was in Orland, Maine. I don't know. This might be a little mountain. I'm not sure what I was looking at there. I don't even know what direction I'm facing. I'm a little dingy. And I'm just going to kind of add some water just to kind of fade it out so it doesn't have any weird stop and start lines. And just kind of fade that out to nothing there. And we'll let that dry while we work on the water. Now to clean my brush, I don't really need to clean it too much with this composition, but I could just squirt a little bit of water and wipe it off on a paper towel. I really didn't need to do that, especially outside being so hot. I'm going to grab a little bit of this, I don't know if that's a cobalt, maybe that's a cerulean, maybe this is something else. I'm not sure, but I'm going to mix them together. And I'm going to go in up here. The sky was nice and blue, so I want my water to be nice and blue. And I'm just going to kind of add some lighter areas where clouds might have reflected and lightened up the water a bit. Hopefully I'm keeping that fairly straight. It's a good idea to try to keep your horizon line real straight. Sometimes I can't when I'm working at such a skewed vantage point like I am here, but you get the gist. You know, if your landscape looks a little weird, it could be because your perspective, your horizon line's not straight. I mean, that's oftentimes all it is. I'm going to take a little bit of that green, a little bit of green over here because we're going to have some trees. And the yellow I'm going to be using, I think I'll probably use a couple of yellows. Let me grab a little bit of this lemon and add some of that to it. So we have some nice fresh trees reflecting in the water there. And the water here at Craig's Pond in Orland is so clear. It's spring fed. It's just a beautiful, clear, clear lake, pond, I guess. I have to lift it up a little bit just to get in there. I want to get some of that other blue. Anything we've used in a landscape, it's a good idea to get in the water because it helps us kind of harmonize the painting. And as I'm looking at this, I feel like that horizon line should be a little bit higher. It's not quite at a third. So I'm going to just bring it up a little bit. And the thing I found with the koi paints that I actually like for plein air sketching is, because I don't tend to fuss too much with my sketches I do outdoors, is that you can lift really well. And this is inexpensive paper. I'm using the Fabriano Studio, which doesn't usually respond to lifting too well, but I find with these paints, and it could just be because they're cheaper paints, they have more filler in them, they lift very well. And remember, your paint does dry a little bit lighter, so keep that in mind. I'm going to go in a little bit more of that, just green on its own so we get the reflection. And pull some over there because there was also foliage on the side that you couldn't really see from where I was sitting. Okay, so now what we're going to do is the kind of the trees over here, and I'm again going to grab some of that green. And I'm just gonna, and another thing I like to do, we did some mixing on the palette, but a lot of times when I'm using like a student grade paint, especially this, you've got all these colors here, and I reckon a lot of those are mixes and, you know, have fillers in them and stuff, so they're not going to mix as cleanly as like an artist grade paint. I mean, these are pretty good, I have to say, but because I know they're not going to mix probably as purely, I'll go ahead and just dab it right onto my paper and then figure, okay, what's the next color I want? I think I'm going to grab some of this yellow, and I mean that I could dab right on top and let it just kind of mix. Another color I want to get into this composition as well is yellow ochre, so I'm just going to squeeze off the excess paint so I don't end up contaminating it too badly, and grab some of the yellow ochre. Sometimes I'll tap it off on my palette even if I'm not going to mix it, just because it keeps me from getting like a big glob, and I can kind of control the consistency of my paint that way. You know what? I'm doing an adult class at the library today, and I think that I am going to do this exercise with them, because even though, like, when I was just kind of, I wasn't thinking about it when I was sketching it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty simple, that's too simple, nobody will want to do that. But now I'm thinking there's a lot of like little teachable things in this little composition that I think people would find useful. So I think I will. So I like to keep these trees back here a little darker, because when I put the trees over here that are closer to me, I want them to be brighter, and I want to make sure I have room for that contrast. So I could even go in and add a little bit of blue, that same darker blue that we used in the sky, and darken that up. I don't want it as dark as that. I mean, I don't want it as dull as that, but that's also dull and faded and looks further back, because we've kind of put a little perspective in there. And it's good when you're out painting in real life, because you can see that, and you don't necessarily notice that when you're painting at home. Okay, so I think I used a little of this already, didn't I? I can't remember. I think I did. I used a little bit of that. So I'm going to take a little bit of that and a little bit of that blue, which we can't quite decide if it's cobalt or if it's cerulean. I think it's cobalt because it's not that green. It's definitely not ultramarine, I'll tell you that. Ultramarine is much more purple. And I'm just darkening the base of those, and I'm going to go in just with the brown on its own and add a little bit. And that's going to also make my trees pop a little bit more because of the red in the paint. Okay, so now I've got some rocks over here, and I'm just going to kind of wipe that. Basically, I'm cleaning my brush over here on this stuff there. And I could throw in a couple of tree trunks while I'm at it. Get my perspective right in there, right off the bat. And then I'm going to just squeeze out my brush to clean. I had this thing full, and I haven't refilled it. And I did that painting, and I'm doing this painting. So you can do a couple little paintings on a full bladder from your water brush, which is nice, from the one that comes in this kit. And like I said, you know, I'm not I'm not selling these, you know, I recommend going to the big box store and using a coupon on these, but I like this brush, and I like that it's leak proof, because don't throw this part away, okay? When you get that is so you can take your brush apart and you can stop it up while you're traveling, and then you put your brush back together when ready to paint. So don't throw that away. Try not to lose it. Maybe, I don't know how you would make a replacement for that. You probably have to buy a new brush. And now I'm also going to make a little bit of black, and I'm going to go back in with that blue that I was using and the Indian red there. There. See, we get a nice dark. It doesn't quite look black now, but when you do start to put it around your rocks, it does get much blacker. And I want a lighter color, so I'm just adding some water right on my palette. Don't be afraid of water. This is watercolor. And sometimes I like to add a little bit of atmosphere in my water with that darker color, that darker gray that we've made. Deepen it up a little bit. It's World Watercolor Month in July, and I belong to the Facebook group. I highly recommend that group if you like to do watercolor, because it's so inspiring. I love seeing everybody's creations. Oh, it's from beginners to advanced. It's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so now I want some brighter trees over here. And of course there's some pine trees, but I really want a little contrast, so I'm going to start with mixing my lemon and that green I've been using. So I get a fairly bright green, and you know, I'm using the same brush, so I'm going to kind of change the way I'm using it a bit so that things look a little more random and different. I don't want all my trees to look the same, even though I'm using the same brush. Oh, I just wanted to dip into my water bucket. I'm going to go into some of the green on its own, just kind of tap in there, and basically it's kind of like an abstract method here. Your colors should be a little bit more vivid as we come forward, brighter, more saturated. More yellow ochre in there, get a nice brighter green. Maybe the green and yellow ochre would give me something nice. It's a little murky, but I can work with it. And just kind of fill in a bit. And I think I want to do some like more shadowy colors there. So moving back into that dark that I made, the undergrowth dark here. So you can see that it's kind of shaded and dark. Alright, so I kind of lost any little trees, unfortunately, here. So I think I'm going to make this kind of come out a little bit further and maybe plant a little shrub there or something, because I feel like it's just there's not a focal point. It's hard to catch the liveliness and vibrancy from a plein air piece after you're back in the studio and I'm recreating, I find. So in our memory, I don't know, my memory is not that great. It's better when I paint an area than if I just take a photo, but still. So I think I'm going to put a little branch, a little tree here. Just something, maybe a small something here. Just to give it like a little bit of, I feel like I just need a little bit of perspective here. And I don't know what kind of tree. A pine tree wouldn't really be there, so as much as I'd love to have a little pine tree there, it wouldn't really make sense. So I'm just going to put like a deciduous tree. I'm going to go with my more opaque color, like yellow ochre, and just dab in some leaves. And then sometimes you can go over with an opaque color, with like something dark, like a Viridian green or a phthalo green or something, and then you can bring it out a little bit more. I'm just going to see if I can get a little pine tree action happening right here, because there are lots of pine trees. This is a nice main pond. Lots of pine trees. You always have pine trees. We are the pine tree state. Took a little pine tree back there, maybe. There, that helps flesh it out a little bit. because you have some pretty dense forest there. So there you go. I always think my back at home sketch isn't quite as vibrant as my on location sketch, but hopefully that gave you a really good idea. I'll show you again how to clean this. Just squirt out your brush on a napkin and wipe it off, and you're good to go for your next painting. And then to refill this and put this away, what you do is you open it up, then you can just pour in from like your water bottle or a faucet or whatever, fill it up, and then put the stopper in. And I always just keep my stopper right here in my palette so I don't lose it. And then you can put this away for next time. I always have a little piece of credit card scraper there if I need it. And there we go. And then of course I always just wipe off my palette when I'm done with the colors. Just you can squirt out some water on there if your paint's dried. It's pretty easy to clean. And there you go. There's a little demo of my little beach scene. I hope you found it useful, and if so, share it with your crafty friends and drop a thumbs up on this video because that really helps my channel grow and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.